Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from Feel Good, who says, my husband's, male 32, sabbatical has become pathetic, and I, female 30, want it to end right now. We're both early 30s, married, no kids, we own a house together, mortgage. My husband worked for the same company for almost a decade. He earned a good salary, but the last few years were rough on him thanks to his overbearing boss. He discussed quitting every so often, and I was open to the idea as long as he had another job lined up. Well, last year he quit spur of the moment over a seemingly minor dispute at work. He would later call it the straw that broke the camel's back. No other jobs lined up, nothing. He assured me that he had savings he could live on and that he wanted to take some time to recalibrate. He also had a few business ideas he wanted to pursue before getting back into the workforce. Trying to be a supportive partner, I said okay. Fast forward to today, he has no income and literally hasn't sent out a single job application. He hasn't even updated his resume. What he has been doing these past 8 months, you ask? Smoking weed, a bunch of scammy work-from-home bullshit that hasn't made him a dime, and most recently, trying to become an Instagram influencer. Yes, seriously. To be fair, he has done some handiwork around the house and fixed up some things, but for the most part, he spends his days smoking weed and dicking around on Instagram, and I'm effectively subsidizing it. We used to split bills 50-50, now it's more like 80-20. The last time I tried to have a serious talk about his future plans, he jokingly said I could divorce him and pay him alimony if I didn't like the current situation. Then he broke down and wept, saying that he might be depressed. I felt horrible for him and offered him my full support, but in retrospect, I'm curious if it was just a convenient excuse to pivot the conversation and get me off his back. What would you do in my shoes? I've grown resentful of him and this whole situation. Oof, 8 months of this. I mean, the depression thing could absolutely be serious. His breakdown could be genuine. People burn out all the time and need support in those situations. I mean, quitting impulsively, I've certainly thought about it in the past when you're dealing with a boss that you consider toxic. You know, sometimes it's a real struggle to deal with and you just want to be done with it. But at the same time, 8 months of this with no action on recovering at all. I mean, should we be looking into therapy or potentially, medication? I know it doesn't work for everyone, but it certainly helped me out when I was dealing with stuff back then. Because sitting back and waiting for it to just suddenly change isn't going to happen, I don't think. But a commenter says similar, saying if he thinks he has depression, then he needs to see a doctor and get help. It only gets harder alone. Hard to see how that goes first, because it might get him back to his feet. If he declines that and won't change, you can't change him. Maybe says, ugh, that's a whole other issue. He read some book last year and now he doesn't believe in antidepressants or thinks that they're way overprescribed. When he told me he was depressed and I suggested seeing a doctor, he said no, he'll figure it out himself and just help be there for him. Commenter says, honestly, he sounds more like a punk than a grown man. It's one thing to not work if you're a stay-at-home parent, etc. A completely other thing if you're just a lazy bum. Dude's taking advantage of the situation and quite frankly, you. Opie says he wasn't always like this. He was responsible and hardworking before he quit. But I agree. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of now. Commenter says, in your shoes I would get him to undertake a specific plan for job applications. Apply for at least 5 jobs a day and prove to you that he does so. Alternatively, immediately enroll into relevant further education or leave. Opie says, I thought of this too, giving him tasks and checking in on his progress. But it's not the way our relationship has ever worked. Frankly, it sounds like something a parent would do with their child, not one spouse to another. Another commenter says, in quotes, trying to become an Instagram influencer and then says, nope, dump him. Opie replies saying, honestly, this part is very annoying and what's caused me to actually seek help with my relationship. His ego and mood are wrapped up in his Instagram thing. It's all he's talked about for weeks now. He'll lose followers after a post and get moody about it. It's pathetic and I've just had enough. Someone said, is OP working? And OP says, I work full time. I make a decent income, but if my husband can't contribute anything towards our monthly expenses, I don't make enough to cover them totally myself. So OP comes in with her first update and says, first, thanks to all who responded to my prior post. A lot of good advice that has helped me navigate the situation. On the day I made my last post, my husband and I had a talk that night when I got home from work. I basically said he needed to make a doctor's appointment for his mental health or cut the marijuana use, or both. He repeatedly refused and actually got a bit hostile about it, which is not like him at all. Then I moved on to finances. I asked him how much of his savings he had left, and all he said was, enough. I pressed him for a dollar figure and he wouldn't answer. I asked if he had a balance on his credit card and he said no. When I asked to see his bank statement to confirm, he basically told me to fuck off. Again, hostile and out of character for him. I told him that the current arrangement wasn't working, and that he'd have to start paying 50% of the bills on March 1st. At this point in the conversation, he completely shut down. He wouldn't even look at me. He just sat looking away from me with tears in his eyes as I talked. I doubt he even heard a word I said, but I clearly stated all the other issues I had, the Instagram stuff, our plans for the future, etc. After this conversation, he stopped sleeping in our bed. For almost a week now, he's slept in the basement. He basically doesn't leave the basement when I'm home unless it's to get food. Honestly, it's pathetic. I'm going out with some colleagues this weekend for a fun night and my husband can stay home like a hermit. I also have a coffee date planned for Sunday with my best friend. I'm going to tell her everything and get her opinion. Because honestly, this isn't the life I want to live and trying to correct it only made things worse. I'm beginning to think of divorce as a real option, which would have seemed outrageous even 3 weeks ago. Thanks again for reading and giving your input. Commenter says to OP he sounds extremely depressed, ashamed, and embarrassed of himself. Commenter says your husband is clinically depressed and needs to see a doctor. This is a mental health issue that only gets worse, and the marijuana is a part of the feedback loop. He needs professional treatment as soon as possible. Commenter says, how long has this marriage been going on? It seems like you're used to everything being 50-50, but it's not how it always is in reality. I'm not saying to put up with this shit, but your husband is clearly in a bad place and needs help. The way you explain confronting him about all of this sounds to him like an attack. We know it isn't, but it's probably how it felt. And 9 times out of 10, he knows you're 100% right. It sucks to hear the truth, and it also sucks to feel like a complete failure and to be told every way how you're completely failing. Both my fiancé and I felt this way when we had to essentially switch off on taking care of the responsibilities. It was embarrassing having to depend on him, and it was unbelievably embarrassing for him as the man in the relationship. We had countless difficult and emotional talks about this. Again, I'm not saying put up with this because you're married. I'm only commenting because of the fact that you seem to be really focused on this 50-50 thing, and I personally feel like marriage isn't always going to be 50-50. Sometimes it's 49 to 51, and sometimes it's 8 to 92. Does he contribute to the household at all? Like, does he cook, clean, do laundry, finish home projects, runs house errands, or do you also take on those responsibilities? If you're also doing all of this, it's extremely unacceptable and he's taken advantage of the situation. But again, I'm not telling you to deal with his behavior, just trying to help find a solution. You know your limits better than anyone else. Don't forget that. And one more comment that says, if he won't seek help, he's choosing to check out of the marriage. He's turning into a different person, and since he refuses to talk about the credit cards, who knows what he could be doing to your credit. Edit, what is OP supposed to do? This has been going on for 8 months according to her prior post. She can't force him into treatment. You can only involuntarily admit someone if they're currently a danger to themselves or others. If he's hostile to her and refusing help, that's his personal decision. He does retain accountability here. So it was nearly 2 months after that post that OP came in again with an update and says, thanks again to all who responded to my prior thread. Even if I didn't agree with the characterization of my relationship by many of the commenters, I did take some advice to heart though, including not sharing my husband's issues with my friends. My husband continues to sleep in the basement. I asked him a few times to start sleeping in our bed again. He'd say maybe, but never actually do it. We have stopped having sex entirely, and I've heard him watch porn in the basement. On the morning of March 1st, we had a horrible argument when I asked for his half of the monthly bills. He e-transferred me about 2/3 of what he should have. And when I asked for the rest, he exploded. He just kept saying fuck off louder and louder over and over as I tried to say that he needed to contribute his fair share. Then he started talking about his depression again. Literally the only time he will up his depression is when I'm criticizing his shitty life choices. He hasn't even seen a doctor or been diagnosed, yet he uses it like a get out of jail free card to be totally unproductive and not pay bills. So I told him point blank, either see a doctor for your depression and start fixing your life, or this marriage is over. It sounded so harsh, but those are honestly the only two options at this point. He made some quip about me paying him alimony if I divorced him. Not the first time that he said this, and that was the last we spoke of it. We have briefly seen and talked to each other since then, but there's no warmth there anymore. Just like we're roommates. Last week he told me he booked a doctor's appointment and I was happy for him, but as far as I can tell, he never ended up going, even after I offered to take the day off and drive him to his appointment. I don't think he's left the house in over 2 months. I've stopped cooking him meals and now subsists on instant noodles he bought off Amazon. I met with a divorce lawyer for the first time earlier this week. He was excellent and gave me a comprehensive rundown of all my options. When I told him about my husband's alimony comments, he laughed and said, not a chance. He voluntarily quit his job against my wishes. He has no official diagnosis from a doctor that would preclude him from working. I don't know where he got it in his head that he'd be entitled to alimony from me. I'm holding on to a shred of hope that my husband will put forth some kind of effort to get better and repair our relationship. I pray every night that he'll do a complete 180 and start being his normal self again. But if nothing changes, I plan to meet with my lawyer again sometime in early April and officially file for divorce. Commenter says on the back of this one, and we have another update in a moment by the way, the ultimatum was appropriate, but since he's not changing, now you have to carry it through. Another one says, you did all that you could. In fact, this might be the best thing for your husband as well. Getting out of a cycle of depression is incredibly difficult without therapy or drastic change. Losing his wife and having to go live alone without an income might just be enough to make him seek help. Another commenter says, I'm sorry about all of this. Don't hold out too much hope. Good on you for taking charge. And the final update said, nearly 4 months later, first, thanks to all who left comments in my prior posts. Hearing advice from all angles really helped me make practical, informed decisions during this extremely volatile time in my life. I finally got him to see a doctor. I wasn't in the room for the diagnosis, but the doctor suggested my husband look into cognitive behavioral therapy and SSRIs. Of course, my husband was opposed to both. He could read about CBT online, and I've known for a while that he's outright hostile to the idea of taking antidepressants. He describes them as brain warping. We had a week or so in April where things almost felt normal. We talked more, ate dinner together, slept in the same bed together, even had a date or movie night. I felt so hopeful. Things truly seemed to be getting better. It didn't last though. We had a fight about something completely innocuous and things quickly fell apart again. One day after work, I sat in my car and was completely overcome with dread. The thought of going home to my broken relationship, it was too much. I drove around aimlessly for hours, wondering how in God's name my life had turned out like this. Half the time I was sobbing. I must have looked crazy. This was my breaking point. I was done with a relationship and marriage for good. When I told him my decision, he wept openly, as I did. He said he was sorry, but that he understood. He didn't ask me to reconsider or make any effort to save the relationship, which tells me it was the right decision for both of us. He moved into his parents' basement a few weeks ago. I'm still in a rough place emotionally. I pray that time will heal me and that I'll be able to find love again. And the top commenters on that update said, it's one thing to have depression, but it's another one entirely to get a diagnosis and then refuse treatment. I'm actually glad he moved back in with his parents, as they can keep an eye on him and make sure he's okay, or as okay as possible. If you're on good terms with him, you may want to tell them some of your concerns about him. Another commenter says, you're both relatively young and have no children. The fact that when you verbalize your decision to divorce, there was no confrontation or mention of attempting reconciliation is telling. Honestly, this is probably the best outcome for both of you. Him living with his parents means that there will be someone looking out for him whilst he sorts out his issues, and you will have the space and freedom to move on with your life. Good luck to you. And the final commenter says, Sad that it's come to this, but it seems like the natural conclusion for so many relationships. Even in cases when one party does try to become better, the other party ends up checking out some point and the relationship ends anyway. Your husband is an adult and has made some choices, for better or for worse, and he has to face those consequences. I'm truly sorry for your marriage has ended, but I think we can both agree that your future lies down a different path. And as sad as the situation is, it just reads like one of those stories that it's one of those ones where they need to hit rock bottom before they actually do anything for themselves. And as bad as it sounds like the situation is for him right now, it doesn't sound like he's quite there yet. I don't know if that sounds like a horrible thing to say, because I do feel bad for him, and I really does hope that he reaches out and does accept that help that he so desperately needs. But in this situation, I don't blame OP from stepping back at the same time. You can't just stand around and watch someone spiral like that while they do nothing to help themselves as well. It's no good for either one of you. And it sounded like OP did wanted to be supportive towards him. She wanted to drive him to his appointment and help him out and try to help him out of whatever he was going through. But he just sounded like he's not ready for that yet. But what about you guys? What do you guys make of this situation? Maybe you got a different thought on the matter. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from a deleted user from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit, and says, am I the arsehole for being angry at my girlfriend for basically abandoning me during our couple's vacation? I, 27 male, and my girlfriend, 26 female, have been together for 4 years and lived together for nearly 2 years. Recently, due to our work schedule, we have been unable to go out much. My girlfriend loves skiing. I'm a newbie, hiking and climbing. I can't do this due to my fear of heights. A few weeks ago was her birthday. I bought her a necklace and proposed her to organize together a coupled trip on the mountains. I paid for it. This was the schedule we came up with. Day 1, skiing separately. Day 2, skiing alone and visiting a particular tourist spot we saw on the internet in the evening. Day 3, hiking together while chatting. Day 4, visiting the town nearby. Day 5, visiting another tourist spot and more in general, free time together. Day 6, go back home. 1 week before our trip, she informed me that she invited one of her friends and her boyfriend to come with us. She would pay for the hotel and they would pay for the rest. I was a bit upset because she didn't even ask me. Despite the schedule, this is how we spent the days. Day 1, skiing. Day 2, skiing. Day 3, hiking. She talked to her friend the whole time. Day 4, skiing and visiting the town nearby as a group. Day 5, she found out there was a climbing spot nearby and decided to go there in the morning. She was supposed to come back at 1 o'clock, but came back in the evening. Day 6, we went back home. During the whole trip, I asked her multiple times if we could do something together as a couple, and every time she told me we'd spend the 5th day alone together. That didn't happen, so we basically spent 0 times together. I tried to let it go, but once we got home she realized I was upset. She insisted, so I told her that I was happy she had fun, but upset our couple's trip became a group trip in which she either abandoned or ignored me. She got angry, claiming that since this was supposed to be her birthday trip, she had a right to decide what she wanted to do. Am I the arsehole for being angry over what happened? It's one of those stories for me that feels like she's just not invested in this relationship, or she's already checked out already and just not split up. I know that sounds really harsh. It sounded part of this trip, whilst it was for her birthday, that OP was paying for, by the way, was designed to reconnect together, because it sounds like, you've been working a lot and not seeing each other as much. So again, it just felt like she emotionally checked out, or she's just taking you so much for granted that the difference doesn't really matter. And the fact that she got angry at the end instead of being apologetic about how you felt, the fact that she invited this other couple just randomly 1 week before your trip was just saying it all to me anyway. I just found that a bit wild in itself. But a commenter says, not the arsehole, she outright dismissed your feelings and decided to invite her friends. I get you've been together this long, but I don't see how your relationship can improve after this. This trip was supposed to be for the 2 of you, and yet others joined in. I can't imagine what would happen if you had a honeymoon with her. She would have invited her friends. Opie says, I didn't want to reveal this bit since it wasn't exactly a core point for this post, but I can't imagine what would happen if you had a honeymoon with her. She would have invited her friends and then says, I'd bought a ring and I intended to propose to her on this trip. I decided to wait when she invited her friends, but I brought the ring anyway just in case it was the right moment. I guess fate wanted to send me a message. Commenter replies saying, my god, this trip is a big red flag. The signs are right in front of you. The fact that you didn't get even a day to yourself and your girlfriend speaks volumes about your relationship. Do not marry this woman. Opie says the idea of marriage has already gone down the ditch. Update from OP says, don't know if I need to ask for permission before posting an update. I will remove in case there is any problem. I stayed at a friend's house for the last couple of days. I didn't have the strength to deal with my girlfriend. I read all of your comments and advice yesterday. I went back home today and waited in the living room for her to come back. I was obviously still upset, but I tried to stay calm and asked her how she felt about the trip and about what I had told her after we came back. She reiterated that she thought I was exaggerating and that the trip was a success and everybody had fun. I reminded her that we originally agreed that this was supposed to be a trip for us to spend some time together. I asked her if she really thought that even under the point of view the trip had been a success. She hesitated but said that we will have plenty of time to spend together in the future. I told her that I doubted it and showed her the engagement ring I'd bought to propose to her. I explained that before the trip, I was sure she was the woman I would have loved to spend my whole life with. But that, after what happened, I reflected deeply on our relationship and realized it wasn't working out. I explained how much I sacrificed for her in the past, only to be left alone when I needed help, and how much what she did in the trip hurt me. She tried to say something, but I told her I was sick of listening to her and never being listened to. I told her I didn't want to listen to her now and probably won't in the near future. We broke up. The house is mine, so she went to stay with a friend. I wanted to thank all the people who commented under the original post for the advice. Thank you and goodbye. Commenter says, you did the right thing. Did she just accept that you broke up and still thought she was right, or did she saw that she fucked up and has been at least remorseful? And how did she react when she saw the ring? Opie said, she said we could still be together and we should try to fix things in some way. Commenter replies saying, I'd like to know how she wants to fix this because I can't see a way besides time traveling. Opie says, I don't know, and to be sincere, I don't care anymore. Just the thought that I wasted my only vacation for the next 5 months being the driver and doormat for her and her friends makes my blood boil. Tomorrow I have to go back to work, and I just want to think about something else and move on with my life. Broad Sharp says, has this always been the way she's treated you throughout the relationship? Sort of dismissive of you, or just recently? Opie says she has always been a bit self-centered, but we originally used to support each other. In the last few months though, her problems were our problems and my problems were my problems. 8-Bit says, I would have done the same. Not worth keeping a relationship, which in my head consists of 2, if only one is interested. Watching the original post, it almost seems like you went on vacation with a friend, and not with an SO. Opie says, I've gone on trips with friends in the past. The difference was that I had fun during those trips. And there was a bit of a breakout in the comments below this, talking about the way he revealed the engagement ring after when they was about to break up, like, this is what you could have won kind of thing. Many people saying, absolutely sounded like a great thing to do. Other people saying, that was just a cruel move to do and pretty petty. So I'm going to leave you with that one. What do you guys make of that end situation about revealing that engagement ring just as they were going to break up? Do you think it was a petty move? Do you think it was a good move? Or don't you really give a shit? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So just thank you for being you. Thank you for being amazing. Keep being bloody amazing. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.